Chapter 431. Li Hongyuan casually threw away the snowball in his hand and walked unhurriedly towards Jingwan. If I did it on purpose, you would have cried a long time ago. As he spoke, he brushed away the ice shards that had splashed on Jingwan's body. Because his hand was holding a snowball, it was very cold, so he did not touch her skin. His gaze fell on her hand, which was slightly red, and he turned back. Why aren't you bringing your master's warm gloves over? The so-called warm gloves were, of course, not the kind that had fingers. Although Jingwan could bring them over, those gloves were actually not very practical in the inner residence. Playing in the snow was considered to be in the category of severe frostbite, so naturally, a hand warmer could not be used. Li Hongyuan took it and carefully put it on Jingwan. During the process, he did not touch Jingwan at all. Jingwan looked at Li Hongyuan's actions. This was not the first time this had happened, so she was no longer as flattered as she was at the beginning. However, every time this happened, she could not help but feel warm in her heart. After Li Hongyuan carefully helped her and tidied her cloak, Jingwan's gaze fell on his hand. Without thinking, she took her hand out of the warm gloves and grabbed him. She moved closer and stuffed their hands into the warm gloves together. She smiled but did not say a word. Li Hongyuan was a little helpless. Aren't you cold? He felt that his hand was cold, but when he held Jingwan's hand, he felt even colder. Jingwan was speechless. Well, they were both cold, but a certain someone's hand was actually warmer than hers. Therefore, she felt that Li Hongyuan's hand was warm. She did not believe that a certain someone did not know this. Otherwise, he would have probably struggled out of her grasp the moment she grabbed his hand. Jingwan was full of smiles. It's okay. It warms up faster this way. Let's do it together. Li Hongyuan lowered his head slightly and pressed his forehead against Jingwan's. Their breaths mingled. Yes, we'll be together. We'll be together forever. Sure enough, no matter how much time had passed, Jingwan's heart would still race every time he did this. However, she definitely couldn't be blamed for her lack of self-control. She could only blame him for being too good at flirting. Not to mention that she couldn't control herself now. Jingwan even believed that in the future, a long time in the future, as long as he treated her the same, even if her hair turned white and her teeth all fell out, she might not be able to control herself. Jingwan raised her head, closed her eyes, and smiled happily. At this moment, she even forgot that she was outside, feeling the breath of this man, and her whole mind was only him. As a voyeur, if they only had mixed feelings before, then now they were shocked to the extreme. The relationship between Wang and his wife was better than what they had expected. For them, especially the noble ladies of Qi Yuan, they never lacked material things. Therefore, a husband who treated them wholeheartedly was definitely their life's hope. No matter how the man's reputation was before marriage, as long as he turned over a new leaf after marriage, he was a good man. Therefore, their subconscious view of Li Hongyuan had already changed. In the eyes of the hidden gold envoys, men didn't have any ability or power, because they, women, could be the pillar of support. They could support their men. As long as they treated them wholeheartedly, then he was a good man. In any case, in the hidden gold, the status of women was very high, but in essence, it still couldn't be compared to men. As a woman, after marriage, whether it was the marrying party or the marrying party, if they did things like having an affair, they would be condemned by the public. And men, even if they were married, if they hooked up with another woman, they would also be criticized. Unless the woman was strong and had great power, otherwise, they would just divorce and not give the man any serious punishment. Therefore, the powerless Wang was enough to be a good man. The two people stood there as if there was no one else around for a while. Go back, don't catch a cold. Li Hongyuan said softly and kissed the tip of Jingwan's nose while he was at it. N. Jingwan nodded. Li Hongyuan hugged her, took his cloak and put it on. Then he raised his hand and hugged Jingwan in his arms with the large cloak. I'm not cold. In Jin Qin Wang Fu, everything was the best. Feathers and so on, it was not too simple. And I'm afraid you'll be cold. In any case, you won't get hot, right? Li Hongyuan said in a seemingly indifferent manner. Well, Jingwan didn't say anything. Under the escort of the maidservants and guards, the two people leisurely left Sifangbi mansion. In the eyes of outsiders, whatever Jin Qin Wang Fei was saying, she was basically smiling the whole time. From time to time, she would turn her head to look at Jin Qin Wang. The friendship in her eyes seemed to overflow. And Jin Qin Wang, although his expression looked cold, but if one looked carefully, they would find that whether it was his movements or his eyes, they were all abnormally gentle. Although he didn't speak much, he was actually listening seriously. Jin Qin Wang actually has such a side. It's really unexpected. A certain young lady in the group of noble ladies said in a daze. If they knew what kind of attitude Jin Qin Wang had towards his wife, then the number of people who wanted to marry him would be innumerable. Miss Zhong at the side glanced at her good friend. How could she not know what she was thinking? She hooked her lips and smiled. Perhaps it's the right person, not the right thing. Perhaps Luo Wang Fei just happened to meet his eyes. That young lady turned her head to look at her. After a moment, she broke free from her trance and also smiled. Who says it's not? Perhaps it's Wang Fei Nyang's good fortune. However, Jin Qin Wang had offended too many people. When the new emperor ascended the throne, this good fortune would probably come to an end. They looked at each other and didn't say anything. It was good that everyone was well aware. Returning to the Wang Fu and entering the room, Jingwan hurriedly took off the cloak on her body and changed into a new set of clothes. Soon after, just as she was about to speak with Li Hongyuan, a secret report came in. The matter of Qin Shu Fei being poisoned at the 10,000 birthday banquet basically had some clues. Speaking of which, Lu Qingdi had sent people to investigate. Those people weren't good-for-nothings. So far, there wasn't any news. Instead, Li Hongyuan's people got ahead of them. In the end, it was still some people who stretched their hands too far and reached where they shouldn't. And the facts proved that Li Hongyuan's certain arrangements were indeed prescient. https://11/1180/9287141. Chapter 432. Since they knew the direction of the other party's attack, there would definitely be clues if they investigated. Have you investigated it thoroughly? Li Hongyuan continued to ask. Replying to Your Highness, we haven't completely investigated it yet. What we can confirm is that Imperial concubine Shu was accidentally injured. She wasn't the target of the person behind the scenes. The original target should be Imperial concubine Shu. That poisonous chicken also accidentally fell into the Imperial kitchen. That chicken should have entered the Imperial harem. As for whether it entered Imperial concubine Shu's palace or the person behind the scenes palace, it is still to be discussed. Speaking of which, if the mastermind behind all of this was really the Empress, then it was indeed a little unreasonable for her to have taken an overdose of rebirth. A woman who wanted to control the entire Qiyuan dynasty had no reason to not care about her own lifespan. Then, it was obvious that she, the mastermind behind all of this, had been schemed against. What was this all about? Who was the person behind the scenes? What was their purpose? Was it an enemy or a friend? However, the sickly Empress still had the energy to scheme against this and that. As expected, this kind of woman would only stop when she was completely dead. Speaking of which, it wasn't unreasonable to scheme against imperial concubine Su. Firstly, although imperial concubine Qin was temporarily in charge of the imperial harem, imperial concubine Qin was secretly in cahoots with her. Secondly, imperial concubine Su, who was the real counterbalance to her, had fallen. Imperial concubine Su didn't seem to have done anything, and Prince Rui didn't expand, but in fact, she knew very well that this wasn't the case. After all this, she had every reason to make imperial concubine Su fall with him. However, she didn't expect that there would be a flaw in the poisonous chicken that she had carefully raised. She didn't scheme against the person she was supposed to scheme against and hurt her own ally. If this was known, perhaps this secret alliance would be broken. From this point of view, the Empress might be a little glad that her illness worsened. However, when she woke up and found out about everything, she would probably vomit blood. That's right, the Empress hadn't woken up yet. Has the Luo family been dealt with? This was what Li Hongyuan cared about the most. Although imperial concubine Qin was accidentally injured, Li Hongyuan was still a little happy about this. However, imperial concubine Qin's poisoning might also hurt the imperial noble consort, so his joy was naturally infinitely reduced. The Empress wanted to shift the blame onto Luo Peishan and also targeted Jingwan. Don't forget why Li Hongyuan defeated Empress Sunday. Therefore, the Empress was prepared to kill several birds with one stone. To a certain extent, she had angered Li Hongyuan again. Although he had taken strict precautions and nothing happened, the Empress accidentally got herself involved, but it didn't mean that what she had done could be erased. Jingwan listened silently on the side. When they were almost done, she opened her mouth. The Empress is ambitious and has the heart, so she should be more cautious. Even if the imperial physician changed the dressing for her, even if the imperial physician was someone worthy of her trust, the Empress shouldn't have accepted it so easily. What was the reason that made her believe? Or, in addition to the imperial physician who committed suicide, is there another person that the Empress absolutely trusts? Li Hongyuan was thoughtful. Based on his understanding of the Empress in his 2 lives, the Empress was indeed a very cautious person. Even her confidants probably couldn't gain her absolute trust. After thinking about it, there was probably only one person who could gain her absolute trust. Li Hongyuan suddenly sat up straight. Go and investigate the recent movements of old Madam's son of Dinghua Manor and the people around her in detail. Jingwan was slightly startled. Yuan, are you suspecting old Madam's son? But, is this possible? Even if old Madam's son and the Empress weren't close, they were still mother and daughter after all. As you said, even so, she was ranked first among the people the Empress trusted the most. Or is old Madam's son actually being used by someone? Li Hongyuan looked sideways at her. Wan, don't be impatient. Old Madam's son is actually a bit unpredictable. Li Hongyuan's words were not without reason. Take the death-free gold medallion in Jingwan's hands. It was originally in the hands of Dinghua Manor. In her previous life, Dinghua Manor didn't take it out, and since old Madam's son knew it was there, she also didn't take it out. When Dinghua Manor was destroyed, she peacefully accepted death. No matter how she looked at it, there was something wrong with it. What she thinks, everyone may not know. Moreover, the Empress was raised by old Madame Sunday. The Empress is such a powerful person. Do you think that old Madame's son doesn't have some ability? Chapter 433. What's the reason between old lady's son and the Empress? Jingwan asked. Although he didn't understand, Li Hongyuan still understood what she was referring to. Their views don't match. As far as I know, when the former Duke Ding wanted to marry the Empress into the imperial family, old Madame's son strongly opposed it. The relationship between the husband and wife was already bad, and even worse. In the end, it was old Madame's son who made a concession. She didn't give in to the former Duke Ding, but because the Empress made her own choice. As a result, old Madame Sun, who originally cared about her eldest daughter very much, suddenly seemed to have changed into a different person. In fact, if old Lady Sun supported the Empress from the beginning to the end, then concubine Su and the others might not be the Empress's opponent at all. It's just that it's too early for old Lady Sun to cultivate her moral character, abstain from meat, and pray to Buddha. Generally, women in the harem like her rarely make such a choice. After all, she has been suppressed by others for a lifetime, and it's not easy for her to turn things around. How could she not enjoy the treatment of having the final say and give up her power without hesitation? Therefore, old Lady Sun did things that ordinary people wouldn't do, and she shouldn't be judged by common sense. However, if this matter was really done by old Lady Sun, then what was her purpose? She couldn't have killed the Empress, her biological daughter, just because the Empress was too ambitious and might bring disaster to Duke Ding's mansion and even the Sun family. To be honest, according to old Lady Sun's attitude, it really couldn't be seen that she cared much about Duke Ding's mansion. If Duke Ding's mansion was destroyed, she wouldn't even blink her eyes. This was more credible. After all, according to her relationship with Lu Qingdi, she probably wouldn't worry about the destruction of the Sun family. Li Hongyuan gently stroked Jingwan's hair. Don't think too much about it. Everything has a cause and effect. We'll know when we find out the truth. It's useless to think too much now. You'll only be hurting yourself for nothing. Jingwan smiled. That's true. People like old Madame Sun and the Empress are all capable people. Small shrimps like us might not be able to play with them. It's better to stay away from them, lest we get implicated. When that time comes, we might not even know what's going on. If you are a small shrimp, then what am I? Once someone used the term, "this king," in front of his beloved wife, it meant that some of his emotions had changed. You are the king of hell. What else can you be? Jingwan replied with a smile. There's a saying that it's best to enjoy the shade under a big tree. You're that towering tree, and I just need to be the one enjoying the shade. So, Your Highness, work hard. Well, you just need to be a small shrimp obediently. I'll take care of the rest. In Li Hongyuan's view, Jingwan was really not suitable to play tricks. At least not now. As she said, she had no chance of winning against those people. However, things were not settled yet. Li Hongyuan would not let Jingwan participate. This had nothing to do with her ability. He just didn't want her to be in danger. The Empress wanted to scheme against imperial concubine Su, but she directed the spearhead to the Luo family. Jingwan was naturally very angry. However, if her husband went too far at this time, some things would inevitably be exposed soon. Although Yuan didn't say it clearly, Jingwan could see that things were almost done. He didn't care whether it would be known now or not. However, as long as he didn't take the initiative to expose himself, Jingwan's heart was unwilling. Passive exposure would always bring trouble. There are some things that Yuan doesn't need to be impatient. It doesn't matter if you take it slow. Li Hongyuan naturally understood her meaning and smiled. 10 years is not too late for a gentleman to take revenge. The problem is that your husband, I, am not a gentleman. What's more, some people have touched the place that they shouldn't have touched the most. I understand what Wan is thinking. Don't worry, it's not to that extent. Although I don't care now, it's not so easy to dig out my bottom line. Okay, I was worried for nothing. Jingwan closed her eyes and leaned on Li Hongyuan as if she had no bones, pretending to be dead. Of course, Annie had already tactfully retreated. In the following 3 or 4 days, Jingwan's social activities inexplicably increased. She met with the Cangjin's envoy again. They had a pleasant chat and the relationship between them went further. So much so that the Tsang Jin's envoy joked with her and didn't dare to keep her for too long in case Jin Qinhuang came to the door again. For Jingwan, this kind of joke naturally didn't have any lethality. She was especially thick-skinned and showed off her affection. Then, she also teasingly asked about the other's husband. Before leaving, the Tsang Jin's envoy expressed his wish to let Jingwan join the Tsang Jin's entourage. Of course, both sides knew that this kind of thing could only be said as it was impossible. Qi Yuan was Qi Yuan. It was unknown how many years it would take before it could reach the level of the Tsang Jin. As for old Madame Sun, perhaps she hadn't found any news yet and didn't hear anything from her husband or the shadow guards. The next day, Jingwan packed up her things and followed Li Hongyuan to Bailong Temple. Li Hongyuan just went to Luqingdi and said that there were too many unlucky things recently. He wanted to go to Bailong Temple to burn incense and get rid of the bad luck. His face was almost written, "Ben Wang is very annoyed, Ben Wang wants to go out and relax." Luqingdi's mouth faintly twitched. He, the father, didn't say that it was unlucky. He had the nerve to say this. His true feelings were so obvious. Did he think that he was blind? In the end, he waved his hand and asked him to get out. The order was to let his son burn incense and pray for him. In Jingwan's view, this was definitely a typical, good father. Not only did he agree to his son's unreasonable request, but he also helped him deal with the follow-up matters, so that others couldn't find an excuse to criticize him. Later, Jingwan heard from Li Hongyuan another reason why Luqingdi asked him to go to Bailong Temple. Luqingdi lit a lamp for the imperial noble consort in Bailong Temple and asked his son, Li Hongyuan, to add some incense oil to her. Jingwan still felt that it was ironic. Wan, don't worry. She won't take it seriously. If it was in the past, Li Hongyuan wouldn't say such a thing. Now, he was quite sure that no matter what Luqingdi did, whether it was affectionate or ruthless, she wouldn't be shaken at all. If they could use her to get benefits from Luqingdi, she would be very happy. Whether she'll take it seriously or not, we don't know. Let's not talk about it anymore. Should we leave today or wait until tomorrow? Let's do it today. It's so boring to stay in the capital and watch some people fight. Jingwan nodded. She had people prepare and left the capital. Li Hongyuan didn't know how to keep a low profile when he traveled. Bailong Temple wasn't far. Even if they traveled at a normal speed, it wouldn't take much time. When they arrived at Bailong Temple, the abbot personally led people to welcome them. When they settled down in Li Hongyuan's personal courtyard, they went to see Master Liaochen together. As the abbot, he wouldn't disturb Master Liaochen's cultivation unless it was absolutely necessary. Thus, he only led them to the outside of Master Liaochen's meditation room before taking his leave to do his own things. Although Master Liaochen was an unworldly expert, he still had the proper etiquette. He greeted the two with a benevolent smile. Jingwan hurriedly returned the greeting. Li Hongyuan didn't half-heartedly return the greeting. Master Liaochen's meditation room was very warm. It didn't have the hardships of an ascetic monk. Even so, it didn't mean that Master Liaochen wasn't devout. In Jingwan's opinion, he was old and had a Buddhist heart. There was no need for him to torment himself over such matters. No matter how eminent a monk he was still a mortal. After they sat down, Master Liaochen personally poured them a cup of tea. This is wild tea from Bailong Temple. The tea is snow water from a few years ago. I hope Prince and Princess will like it. They could smell the fragrance before they even tasted the tea. It couldn't be bad. Moreover, even if it was snow water, in an era without chemical pollution, there was no need to worry that there would be anything dirty in it. Jingwan took a small sip. She couldn't help but praise the tea. Good tea, good water, and the master's skills. As long as Princess likes it. Master Liaochen smiled. If it weren't for his clothes and bald head, no one would believe that he was an unworldly expert. He was too approachable. Li Hongyuan didn't say anything, but he took 2 sips of tea. It was clear enough. The snow at Bailong Temple is also very good. It's comparable to the peach blossoms in spring. Wan, go take a look. We can't let down the beauty. Jingwan knew that Li Hongyuan was here for business. Without another word, she got up and bid farewell. Li Hongyuan didn't waste time either. He took out the jade pendant. Master, you must recognize it. Master Liaochen nodded. So that's how it is. Chapter 434. Understanding dawned in Master Liaochen's eyes. So that's how it is. Li Hongyuan could tell from Master Liaochen's expression that he already knew the cause and effect of everything. That was why it was the easiest to deal with someone like Master Liaochen. However, there was one condition: he didn't involve himself in worldly affairs. If he did, he would become the most terrifying enemy. Even if he stood on Master Liaochen's side, as someone who was loyal to him, he wouldn't be able to eat or sleep in peace. This was because a person like him couldn't be controlled. It didn't matter if you transmigrated or reincarnated, 10 times or 100 times. All foresight and tricks would be useless in front of him. Of course, anyone with half a brain would know that this was impossible. As the saying went, some people had to pay a heavy price for divining the heaven secrets. If someone could casually reveal or use it, that person would be sent to hell in a matter of seconds. Moreover, if one's heart was disturbed and he entered the secular world, could he still be called a master? Could that mysterious ability continue to exist? At least, Li Hongyuan trusted Master Liaochen very much and had never thought of asking him to come out of seclusion. In that case, I don't think I need to explain. Master Liaochen should know why I'm here. Master Liaochen nodded. Your Highness, you must have met the Imperial Noble Consort since you've come all the way here. What do you want? Master Liaochen was helpless against a demon king like Li Hongyuan. Therefore, he had to be careful about anything related to him. He was afraid that Master Liaochen would do something irreparable at the slightest provocation. Other than him, even Emperor Luqing couldn't do anything to him, let alone make a special trip back while he was traveling. Li Hongyuan held the teacup and took 2 sips. Even though it wasn't hot, it was still misty in the winter, blurring his expression. He calmly recounted his meeting with the Imperial Noble Consort and how he knew the reason for his reincarnation. No matter how powerful Master Liaochen was, he couldn't know the details. Wang is thinking right now, can I keep her? Master Liaochen sighed softly. He knew that it wasn't very possible. As the saying goes, a life for a life, and the cost was often more than the gain. Even so, there were very few people who had this kind of opportunity. According to that Imperial Noble Consort's fate, if she only extended her son's life, even if it was just for 30 to 50 years, it would probably only affect her life for the next several lifetimes, a life full of hardships, but she definitely wouldn't end up with her soul scattered. The reality was that turning back time didn't just change one person's fate, but many people's. It could even create a completely different history. Furthermore, there was such a ruthless person like Wang. Unless you were one of the gods, how could you be able to pull yourself out of this after doing such a thing? In reality, Master Liaochen didn't even know if gods and Buddhas really existed. The Imperial Noble Consort was indeed special, but not to this extent. Moreover, this kind of thing was irreversible. Therefore, the benefits had already been obtained. How could he not pay the price? Li Hongyuan had already thought of this. He didn't express anything about Master Liaochen's silence. His current state of mind was still calm. Regarding the Imperial Noble Consort, he didn't have to do it. Ben Wang doesn't care what happens in the future. As long as she lives the lifespan of a normal person in any way, it's fine. Li Hongyuan paused, otherwise, 20 years. When Li Hongyuan said this, Master Liaochen actually let out a sigh of relief. It wasn't because Li Hongyuan was backing down, but because his attitude showed that there was room for discussion. Wang Yi, the imperial noble consort, should have disappeared when time turned back. No matter if it was in your previous life or this life, once you've obtained benefits, she shouldn't exist anymore. The reason you can still see her is probably because her obsession is too deep. After meeting you, her obsession will definitely fade and then quickly disappear. In reality, based on her situation, no matter how strong her obsession is, being able to hold on until now is already her limit. Does Master mean that I'm powerless? If she can exchange with me, can't she exchange with others? If one isn't enough, then what about 10, 100, 1,000, or even 10,000, 100,000? Master Liaochen was most afraid of Li Hongyuan's actions. He didn't have any scruples and did whatever he wanted. Wang Yi, through the matter of the imperial noble consort, you should know that some things pay attention to karma. In order to extend the imperial noble consort's existence for 10 to 20 years, you've sacrificed millions of lives. You don't care, but have you considered Wang Fei? When Wang Fei married you, she was already connected to your life. Do you think that this kind of killing will not affect her? Li Hongyuan was silent. Between the imperial noble consort and Jingwan, it was clear that he would unhesitatingly choose Jingwan. Master Liaochen also rejoiced that Jin Qinwang had a weakness. A moment later. But, according to Master's meaning, exchanging lives is feasible, right? Even if she's special and can't be exchanged for everything, at least part of it, right? It was clear that Li Hongyuan wouldn't give up so easily. That's right. As the saying goes, monks don't lie. Master Liaochen naturally couldn't say anything that went against his heart. But this exchanging lives is different from the one between you and the imperial noble consort. Rather than saying that you're exchanging lives for the imperial noble consort, it's better to say that you're exchanging lives. Using someone else's life to replace the imperial noble consort's, letting someone else replace the imperial noble consort's fate of dissipating. However, there are two prerequisites. First, it has to be done willingly. Second, the life has to be similar to that of the imperial noble consort. The closer it is, the better the effect. Hearing this, Li Hongyuan's mind immediately flashed with Qin Shu Fei's figure. She didn't possess someone else's body, but happened to be Qin Shu Fei. Doesn't this mean that in this world, the range is too large? At least in the entire capital, their lives are the closest. Even with great Master Liaochen's temper, he felt helpless. What was this called? This was a classic example of biting the hand that fed you. It could be said that the imperial noble consort was only able to survive because Qin Shufei had taken in her. If Qin Shufei herself had rejected the imperial noble consort, the imperial noble consort would not have been able to parasitize her. But now, it was as if Mr. Dongguo's kindness had not been rewarded. Master Liaochen only hesitated for a moment, but Li Hongyuan had already gotten his answer. I'll think of a way to make this happen. When the time comes, I'm afraid we'll need Master's help. Master Liaochen naturally didn't want to do something that would harm someone's life, but he couldn't completely reject this king of hell. After some deliberation, he said, Your Highness, even if Qin Shu and the imperial noble consort's lives are the closest, that's only relative. Even if you succeed, it won't take long. This humble monk suggests that Your Highness tell the imperial noble consort about this. If both parties are willing, it won't work either. Li Hongyuan obviously understood what Master Liaochen meant. In his opinion, it was highly likely that his birth mother wouldn't be willing to let her know. But he didn't doubt the truth of Master Liaochen's words. Other than this, is there any other way? Yes. Set up 81 altars in Qi Yuan. 81 monks will pray for blessings on each altar for 81 days, that's simple. It seemed like a large scale, but if they were spread out, it wouldn't be a problem. But wasn't it a little too simple? Your Highness, this is just a prelude. What we really need is the blessing of the people. The more people there are, the better the effect. The longest it can last is perhaps until your Highness dies of old age. https://11/11807/9353212. Please wait patiently after reporting and refresh the page. Mobile edition. Chapter 435. Li Hongyuan frowned slightly. As expected, it wouldn't be that easy. The altar could be set up in secret, but the people praying for blessings definitely couldn't be hidden. How could it be as simple as mobilizing the entire Qi Yuan? Even his so-called imperial father missed his birth mother in every possible way. Sometimes, he even acted like he was crazy and didn't care about anything. However, if he really wanted to create such a big scene, it would be very difficult for him to nod his head and agree. After all, no matter if it was the imperial noble consort or Li Hongyuan, there was a big prerequisite for his extreme doting. That was, it couldn't involve the Qiyuan Empire. When Lu Qingdi first met the imperial noble consort, he might have thought of forsaking the empire for the beauty, but that thought was very short-lived. After achieving his goal, it would have disappeared without a trace. In Li Hongyuan's opinion, it was harder to get thousands of people to pray for blessings than to kill thousands of people. Therefore, Li Hongyuan didn't consider this option. Is there no third option? Li Hongyuan asked mildly. Ba. Your Highness, if it's simple and doesn't cost anything, I'm afraid you'll be suspicious immediately. Master Liaochen was quite familiar with Li Hongyuan's temperament. Li Hongyuan nodded, indicating that he understood. Then he picked up the jade pendant and prepared to leave. Since he'd finished his business, he naturally didn't want to face a bald old monk. No one else could be more important than his wife. This was a classic example of throwing away something after using it. Master Liaochen was starting to wonder if it was really worth it for him to come all the way here. Your Highness, please wait. This humble monk can bless this jade. You can leave it with Her Highness Consort Shu and have her carry it with her at all times. It can stabilize and nourish her soul. Although its effects are limited, this jade is the best place to nourish her soul. Li Hongyuan handed the jade over. Just now, Master told this prince to ask her if there's a way to get her to come out and meet with this prince. This matter concerns Consort Qin Shu, so I can't let her pass on a message. Imperial Noble Consort, every time she controls Imperial Noble Consort Shu's body, it consumes a lot of her energy. The damage to Imperial Noble Consort Shu was not small either. Li Hongyuan sneered, if that's the case, why did Grandmaster say such useless words? It was impossible to have a proper conversation with someone like Li Hongyuan. Master Liaochen held the jade in his hand, closed his eyes, and chanted for about a quarter of an hour. Then he handed it back to Li Hongyuan. Give it to concubine Shu. Go see her in 32 hours. Li Hongyuan placed the jade pendant in front of his eyes. He didn't know if it was a psychological effect, but he felt that this piece of jade seemed to be more lustrous. Master, since this jade can nourish souls, does it mean that it is very special? People nurture jade, and jade nurtures people. If it's suitable, it can become a priceless treasure. If it's not suitable, it's just a piece of jade no matter how good it is. To put it bluntly, this piece of jade was extremely compatible with the Imperial Noble Consort. Li Hongyuan accepted the jade and left without a trace of politeness. Jingwan was wearing thick clothes and could be said to be fully armed. She strolled around White Dragon Temple. Because she was constantly walking, she didn't feel cold. The snowy scenery of White Dragon Temple was very beautiful and spectacular. It had to be said that White Dragon Temple was a place of great feng shui. Jingwan stood on a high ground. From her current angle, she could vaguely see a section of the river below White Dragon Mountain. Because it was too far away, it didn't look much different from a wide ditch. She couldn't tell if the current was fast or slow. At this time, Jingwan was in a daze. Wan, what are you thinking about? When Li Hongyuan found her, he couldn't help but ask when he saw her like this. Jingwan turned to look at him and chuckled. I'm thinking about my first contact with Ah Yuan. It really left a deep impression. Li Hongyuan raised his eyebrows. Wan, why don't you say it was intimate contact? It was indeed deep and memorable. As he spoke, he purposely licked his lips seductively. Jingwan narrowed her eyes. I remember that a certain someone didn't seem to have any consciousness and was in a semi-conscious state. Where did you get the impression from? How did it leave a deep impression? Could Li Hongyuan say that he didn't actually lose consciousness? Perhaps his self-control was very poor at that time, but he had all the sensations he should have and all the memories he should have. The feeling was indeed wonderful. However, this matter really couldn't be said. Jingwan was all smiles, but it was inexplicably a little dangerous. I haven't asked who Your Highness was calling at that time. To be able to make Your Highness have such a big reaction, it's really different from the person I know. Is it the white moonlight in your heart, or the cinnabar at the tip of your heart? If I say that the person I called was you, Wan, would you believe me? Jingwan snorted twice. Obviously, she didn't believe him. However, deep in her heart, there was a trace of strangeness that she didn't notice. Li Hongyuan showed a hurt expression. This husband has always only lost control in front of Wan. Jingwan didn't comment. Is it done? Li Hongyuan felt that it was a pity. In fact, he was waiting for Wan to get to the bottom of it. Although he didn't want to tell her now, whether he said it or not was one matter. Whether Wan asked or not was another matter. Every time there was a hint, Wan seemed to subconsciously avoid it, as if she was instinctively avoiding a forbidden area. Something like that. However, it's too difficult to implement. You can't reveal anything to me, okay? It would be a lie if she said that she wasn't curious. Not really. Li Hongyuan thought for a moment. I just want to do a great ceremony for her that will spread throughout the world and pray for the blessings of the people. It's not difficult. Even she felt that it was impossible. What's Wan's opinion? Create a celestial phenomenon, make the imperial noble consort a legend, the mysterious lady of the ninth heaven, and so on. If done properly, the effect will definitely be very good. https://11/11807/9353213. Chapter 436. Li Hongyuan pondered. It wasn't that no one had done this before. People would do anything to achieve their goals. Not only the royal family, but also the officials and nobles, and even the common people. There were countless people who used various methods, but the end result was the same. However, compared to what could be done to the imperial noble consort, those were really small. The biggest thing they could do was to change a person's fate, whether it was a newborn child or an ambitious woman who wanted to marry into the royal family. Otherwise, it was something they wanted to do or didn't want to do at certain times. These things didn't involve the common people in the world. Therefore, they didn't think of it at the moment. However, there was indeed room for improvement. Once it was done, the effect would be very good. Wan, do you have any suggestions on how to do it? There's no reason. It's not appropriate to rashly spread the news about the imperial noble consort. How about this? Jingwan explained her thoughts one by one. Of course, because it was a temporary idea, it could only be an outline. However, Jingwan believed that this matter only needed an outline or even an idea. Someone would definitely perfect it and then implement it as much as possible without leaving any future troubles. Li Hongyuan listened quietly. At this time, he was a qualified listener. When Jingwan finished speaking, Li Hongyuan took her into his arms. Wan, thank you. Jingwan looked up at him, her eyes shining. Suddenly, she kissed his chin. It was a little cold. Is there a need for thanks between us? I'm just moving my mouth. The matter still needs to be done by you. There's no need to do this for other matters, but this matter needs to be done. All right, I'll accept it, Jingwan said nonchalantly. Actually, that's your mother. That's also my mother-in-law's fault. So, she was one of them. There was no need to treat her like an outsider. Wan, you just need to listen to me. Someone said rather domineeringly. Yes. There was no need to argue with him over such a small matter. I'll go find Master Liaochen later. Then, we'll go back to the capital. Or Wan, do you want to stay for a few more days? Let's go back to the capital. Business is more important. It was obvious that this matter was very important. We still need to prepare for this matter. It's not that easy to complete it. Let alone a day or two, even 10 days or half a month might not be a problem. The matter was too big, and there couldn't be any mistakes in the early stages. The work was definitely not something that could be completed in a day or two. I know, but if we stop at White Dragon Temple, it's hard to guarantee that we won't connect the two when the incident happens in the future. It might not be difficult to deal with it, so it's better to save as much trouble as possible. The snowy scenery of White Dragon Temple is not something that can be seen in a short time. Won't Wan feel regret if we leave just like that? Jingwan chuckled. I want to grow old with Yuan. There will be countless winters in the future, and there will be many opportunities. There was no doubt that Li Hongyuan was very pleased to hear this. Li Hongyuan went to find Master Liaochen. After all, he still needed Master Liaochen's help to complete this matter. In other words, he was indispensable. With him around, even if he didn't say a word, people would imagine countless things. However, as an eminent monk, it was theoretically impossible for him to participate in such a big show and deceive the world. But if a harmless deception could save countless lives, Master Liaochen would not refuse. When it came to caring for the world, there was probably no one like him. Even the people sitting on the throne were far inferior to him. At the same time, Jingwan began to prepare for the return journey. They had only just settled down, but the people below wouldn't have any objections. They didn't dare to have any. After weighing the pros and cons, Master Liaochen agreed without hesitation. When they left, Master Liaochen personally saw them off. He looked at Jingwan kindly and said something like, "You understand everything separately, but you don't understand everything together." Master Liaochen seemed very grateful to her. Jingwan was a little confused. She had no idea what was going on. She turned to Li Hongyuan, but Li Hongyuan didn't seem to have any tacit understanding at all. He didn't even give her a hint with his eyes. Just like that, Jingwan was brought into the carriage in a daze. Another jade bead appeared in her hand. It looked like a very ordinary knot with jade beads strung together. It was simple and plain, but if one looked closely, the jade beads were so bright that they didn't look like jade. This jade bead might not be as valuable as the string of Buddhist beads in her hand, but it came from Master Liaochen. There was no doubt that people would fight over it if she took it out. When they got into the carriage, Jingwan couldn't take it anymore. What's the meaning of this, Master Liaochen? Didn't that old bald donkey say that you have an affinity with Buddhism? If that's the case, it's normal for him to give you something. Li Hongyuan's expression was especially dark. Jingwan snorted. When Master Liaochen said that, a certain someone had looked like he wanted to kill someone. Unlike normal situations, he had suppressed his anger. It was quite amusing to think about it. If she didn't know that Master Liaochen wasn't the type to play around with people, she would have thought that Master Liaochen was deliberately provoking her. Jingwan was stunned at first, but quickly understood that there were many kinds of affinity. If Jingwan had an affinity with Buddhism to the point of becoming a monk, Master Liaochen wouldn't have said anything. If Ah Yuan isn't happy, why did he ask me to accept the gift? Li Hongyuan glanced at her coldly without a word. Jingwan knew that even if her husband knew what was going on, he was really angry. She hurried to pacify him. She kissed and hugged him for a long time before smoothing out his hair. But it was over. Jingwan probably knew that this was something that he couldn't tell her. Well, Jingwan didn't think much of it when it happened 1 or 2 times. But when it happened a little more, she still felt a little displeased. But as long as it didn't have anything to do with mistresses, Jingwan felt that she should be more forgiving. Li Hongyuan's quick return was naturally surprising. Others had no right to ask, but Lu Qingdi's curiosity could be satisfied. He'd summoned his son to him and was so eager to leave the capital. How could it be that he didn't even have a day? Tell me, what's going on? Li Hongyuan was expressionless. What else could it be? It's too cold. There's nothing in that lousy place, so of course I came back. What a stubborn and powerful reason. Lu Qingdi only wanted to facepalm. Your mother, I've done what I should do. Lu Qingdi nodded. Okay, go back to your residence and shut yourself in for a few days. After all, his son had gone to White Dragon Temple to pray for him. How could he have prayed for him so quickly? If he didn't punish him, where would his father's dignity be? Of course, even if the world knew that he was just trying to save face, he still had to do it. This was exactly what Li Hongyuan wanted. He could arrange those things. Of course, even if he shut himself in to reflect on his mistakes, Li Hongyuan wouldn't let down his guard against some people who were still in the capital. He continued to hold banquets like this every day. Whether it was to build relationships or exchange benefits, he just wanted to make the best use of this last bit of time. As for some quick and short information exchanges that even brushed past each other, they were everywhere. During these few days, the envoys of various countries, whether they had achieved their goals or not, began to leave Qiyuan City one after another. Lu Qingdi was also generous. Basically, every country gave a corresponding generous gift. Of course, whether these gifts were satisfactory or not was another matter. For example, if they wanted to get a book on arts and agriculture, he would give them a bunch of books. There were countless similar gifts. These were all made by Luo Peishan, the minister of the Ministry of Personnel, who was temporarily the minister of the Ministry of Rights. When he did this, many people looked at Luo Peishan with admiration. Yes, the minister of the Ministry of Personnel, it was better not to offend him if possible. Even Lu Qingdi looked at Lord Luo for a long time and then praised him with a very complicated, well done. He sincerely thought that it was good, but his heart was complicated. In the end, he, the boss of Qiyuan, had to take the blame. In the hearts of the envoys, Lu Qingdi had already been labeled as a sinister, cunning, hypocrite, and so on. Lord Luo stroked his beard and smiled but didn't say anything. Could he say that these were all his dear granddaughter's ideas? According to his granddaughter, most of the countries were not affiliated with his country. Could it be that she wanted to bring back mountains of gold and silver with just a few gifts? She even wanted to fulfill her wish and bring back the skills. How shameless was she? https 11/11/11/11807/9454803. Mobile Edition. Chapter 437. However, when Sung Jin left, Jingwan even went to send him off. Jingwan had dealings with Sung Jin's people before, so it wasn't a secret. As long as one wanted to know, they would naturally know. Because of this relationship, among the gifts that she chose for Sung Jin, there were more genuine goods. Luo Darren did it righteously and confidently. Of course, it wouldn't be too obvious. If others really wanted to nitpick, they wouldn't be able to find fault with it. Jingwan also personally prepared a gift. She definitely brought a lot of personal goods. However, she must have thought about it over and over again. After choosing it, she also showed it to Li Hongyuan. There was absolutely nothing that she couldn't give. Jin Qinhuang was still grounded. After Jingwan sent him back to the city, she saw the carriage of the former Wei crown prince. Because the carriage she was sitting in was more ordinary, the other party didn't notice her. Jingwan naturally didn't have any expression. The half-closed curtain was still hanging. As for whether she had any thoughts in her heart, there was no way to know. Speaking of which, there were only 2 countries left in the capital of Qiyuan. One was the former Wei, and the other was the West Xiongnu. The people of these 2 countries, ever since Emperor Lu Cheng's birthday, could be said to have been tearing at each other. In terms of eloquence, the former Wei, who was in the same vein as the Qiyuan, would definitely scold the West Xiongnu like dogs. However, in terms of individual strength, the fists of the West Xiongnu people were definitely harder. Moreover, most of these people had an upright temperament and didn't understand the meaning of moderation. Since they couldn't win in words, then they would unceremoniously use their fists. At this time, they didn't care about diplomatic relations. They prepared to give the princess of the West Xiongnu people, but in the end, they sent her to the bed of the emperor of Qiyuan. They had already shed all pretense of cordiality. Because of the West Xiongnu people who didn't play by the rules, the former Wei crown prince could be said to have been badly battered recently. Of course, there were still some things that were slightly comforting. Because the West Xiongnu people refused to let go of this matter, naturally they couldn't resolve it clearly. However, now that there were only 2 countries left, they couldn't just stay here and not leave. Therefore, if they wanted to continue the war, they could only return to their respective countries and then continue the war through letters of credence. It was impossible to fight with live ammunition because the 2 countries weren't adjacent, the Qiyuan wouldn't let them pass and other small countries wouldn't foolishly let them pass. Wouldn't that be the same as inviting a wolf into the house? Therefore, no matter how fierce the quarrel was, it could only be a war of words, and the West Xiongnu people were destined to lose. Therefore, although the former Wei crown prince was mentally exhausted, he wasn't too worried when he returned. After all, it wasn't particularly difficult to resolve this matter. What he needed to do now was to meet his good sister who had become consort Xian of the Qiyuan and get the most important bargaining chip to shake the crown prince of Great Wei. Although his sister didn't get what she wanted in the end, she stayed in the Qiyuan and was far away from the abyss of suffering she imagined. In the end, it was he who held her in the palm of his hand. During this period of time, because the several empresses and consorts in the imperial harem didn't have time to pay attention to her, and Emperor Lu Qingdi was busy. When he had nothing to do, he would pretend to be a love saint in front of the portrait of the imperial Gui Fei. When he slept, he would hug it. This person, Consort Wei Xian, was probably forgotten by him. In addition, he didn't like Consort Wei Xian in the first place, so naturally, he didn't even see her once. If the emperor didn't pay attention to an imperial consort, even if she held the high position of Consort Xian, no other imperial consort would be willing to find a sense of existence. Moreover, now that there was no one in charge in the imperial harem, those in the imperial harem were all ready to make trouble. In the past, they didn't have the opportunity and didn't even think about it. Now, it was different. If they didn't seize the opportunity, they would be letting themselves down and have even less time. In addition, in the end, she was the princess of the former Wei. The people of the former Wei hadn't left yet, so they definitely wouldn't be harsh on her in terms of food and clothing. Therefore, during this period of time, Consort Wei Xian's life was actually not bad. Her resentment and unwillingness for not being able to marry into Jin Qinhuang Fu had disappeared a lot. However, because she couldn't get it, her heart only wanted it even more. Moreover, there were a few women who didn't admire handsome men in their youth and were willing to dedicate themselves to an old man, especially a proud and conceited person like Princess Yi Ning. Therefore, the thorn in her heart could never be removed. Moreover, the better the days were, the stronger this mentality would be. It was hard to say when it would explode. The former Wei eldest prince wanted to see Consort Wei Xian before leaving. It was a reasonable request, so Lu Qingdi agreed without much thought. Previously, Consort Wei Xian had suffered under the hands of her elder brother. This time, she completely put on airs. After all, she was now Lu Qingdi's consort Wei, and her elder brother was just a prince of the Wei dynasty. They weren't on the same level at all. Therefore, she sat on the main seat, casually eating melon seeds. When she saw the eldest prince come in, she just raised her eyelids and glanced at him without saying a word. The former Wei eldest prince knew what was going on, but it didn't matter. No matter what this imperial sister's attitude was, there were some things that couldn't be changed. Even if she sat in her current position, it wouldn't be difficult to pull her down. Greetings to Qi Yuan's consort Xian Nyang. In order to achieve his goal, he didn't mind at all. Consort Wei Xian's heart was both happy and unhappy. She was happy because this imperial brother also had this day. She was unhappy because the other party was too straightforward. Moreover, as a result, she had no reason to flare up. However, Consort Wei still didn't want to tell him some things so easily. Although the final result would be the same, she couldn't not say it. The former Wei eldest prince dawdled for a long time at Consort Wei's place. When he left, his mood was very good. Obviously, what he got was not as simple as a few words. He went to see Lu Qingdi and said a lot of words, asking Lu Qingdi to take care of Consort Wei and so on. In the end, he said goodbye. The people of the former Wei left the capital the next day, followed by the people of the West Xiongnu. However, before they left Qi Yuan's capital, Jin Qinhuang Fu exploded. Because Jin Qinhuang inexplicably fell into a coma, Gong Zhou, who had already returned to the Fu, was helpless and couldn't find the reason. https://11/118007/9454804 Chapter 438. However, even if Lu Qingdi was the emperor and had the imperial qi, it was useless at this time. Other than being angry and furious, he was still doing these things. Although he said that he would kill all the imperial physicians, it was just a joke. In fact, it was useless to kill them. At this time, no one could persuade him. Only Jing Wan's words worked. Naturally, she had to persuade him. Although this was part of the plan, when Li Hongyuan really fell into a deep sleep for over 40 hours, even if there were no outsiders and they couldn't wake him up, Jing Wan still panicked. At one point, she regretted making such a suggestion. She didn't think that it was just a show, but it was so realistic. As for the culprit, Gong Zhou, she naturally didn't have a good expression. However, Jing Wan was still rational. Gong Zhou was only following orders and she shouldn't vent her anger on him. However, Jing Wan didn't know that this would be the result. Logically speaking, her husband shouldn't have hidden it from her. So, was there a small problem, or was it Gong Zhou who did it? Jingwan couldn't be blamed for being suspicious of Li Hongyuan's confidants. After all, people's hearts were the most difficult to control. There were many cases of betrayal by confidants. Therefore, even if she didn't vent her anger on Gong Zhou, she still treated Gong Zhou coldly for the time being. There were only a few people who knew about this. At this time, they didn't dare to plead for Gong Zhou, because things seemed to be a little different from what they expected. They also believed in Gong Zhou. However, some things couldn't be trusted. Gong Zhou was also clear about this point, so he had no complaints in his heart. However, it was more or less a little bitter. This time there was a little accident. The situation was not so serious. In the evening, he would light a special incense, and the master should wake up. The problem now was that it was useless. He had also checked repeatedly, but he still could not find the problem. Therefore, compared to those messy emotions, he wanted to find out the reason as soon as possible. However, fortunately, the master's current situation was not out of control, but he might sleep for a longer time. Gong Zhou explained to Jingwan. Jingwan naturally couldn't dispel her suspicions. If Wang Ye continues to sleep like this without eating or drinking, will there be any problems with his body? Don't worry, Wang Fei. Even if Wang Ye sleeps for half a month, he will at most lose some weight. Nothing will happen to him. It turned out that his physiological functions had also been reduced. That was still good. Otherwise, in this era where there was no way to get nutrient fluids, he would definitely fall asleep and die if he couldn't wake up. When your highness wakes up, you can go and receive your punishment. Yes. Jingwan was a little relieved, but she also secretly decided that this kind of thing would not happen a second time. It was only at this moment that Jingwan came to her senses. Logically speaking, a person like her husband would never easily place his life in the hands of others. Even if this person was his confidant, the reason why he agreed to it was entirely because of her. He had absolute trust in him. Because of Jin Qinhuang's sudden collapse, there was also instability in the Wangfu. With all these, Jingwan was very clear that she must stabilize herself. Her own husband made such a choice at this time, it was not necessarily to create an opportunity for her to completely stand up. How could she fail to live up to his good intentions? Although ever since they got married, because of his clear attitude, the entire Wangfu and even his subordinates were all respectful to her, basically without any factor of her own. If he changed his attitude at this time, then, 100%, the people below would immediately turn hostile. Jingwan used to think that it was nothing. She herself was also ambitious and wanted to stand side by side with him. It was just that, in the end, her awareness was still not enough. Just in these 2 short days, she knew that this was not possible. She could rely on him, because their hearts were connected, she didn't mind. But when he was not here, if she didn't have enough authority, 8 or 9 out of 10 things would happen. Don't say that he would never not be by her side. In the current situation, no one could say this sentence with certainty. Therefore, Jingwan, for the first time, made a ruthless move. She tidied up the servants who were secretly gossiping and ordered that everything in the Wangfu would continue as usual. What should be done should be done. If there were any mistakes, then from top to bottom, there would be no leniency. It had to be said that it was indeed very useful. At least the panic on the surface disappeared without a trace. Lu Qingdi saw the green shadows around her eyes. She, who had always been radiant, couldn't hide her tiredness. He knew that she must not be having a good time. But now, she forced herself to appease him. Because he loved the house, he loved the crow. And also because Jingwan gave him that painting, so he really doted on Jingwan a bit. Lao Lu's wife, don't worry too much. As you said, nothing will happen to Yuan. Everyone says that a scourge lives for 1,000 years. This evil creature is reckoned that even the king of hell wouldn't dare to accept him. You have to take care of yourself. Don't wait until he wakes up and then you collapse. At that time, he will be heartbroken. Jingwan forced a smile and nodded. This was not a pretense. Because there was an unknown situation, it would be a lie not to be worried. Imperial Father, what should we do now? Should we invite a doctor from the common people to take a look? It seemed that she was a little desperate. Luqingdi pondered for a moment and nodded in agreement. Because he also knew that there were some experts among the common people. Later, he had someone put up the imperial notice and even sent it to the various prefectures. Jingwan wanted to say, what's the use of this? Looking for people from so far away, even if they really found them, by the time they rushed to the capital, it would already be too late. However, this was not useless. It was not impossible to use this to build momentum. Don't forget, their ultimate goal was to open an altar for the people to pray for blessings. This time, it was just laying the groundwork. Luqingdi stayed in Jin Qinhuangfu for a whole day. However, he still had a lot of state affairs to deal with. It was impossible for him to stay in the Qinhuangfu all the time. He could only return to the palace first. Before leaving, he ordered a group of waste imperial physicians to stay in Jin Qinhuangfu. Even if they were useless, they should stay. If Jin Qinhuang was fine, then forget it. If he died, then they would die. Luqingdi's departure did not mean that Jin Qinhuangfu was quiet. Other people did not dare to gather in Jin Qinhuangfu. Li Hongyuan's brothers and sisters, as well as his uncles and cousins, could not be ignored. Moreover, because of their relationship with Luqingdi, they had to show extra concern. In any case, the living king of hell was also unconscious, so what was there to be afraid of? Therefore, Jin Qinhuangfu could be said to be unprecedentedly lively. Even the Gong prince, who had been ruthlessly tidied up by Li Hongyuan at Luqingdi's birthday banquet, completely disregarded the former enmity at this time, acting like a good elder brother who was worried about his younger brother. If the gloating in his eyes could be restrained a little, then it would be more like it. How many of these people were truly worried about Li Hongyuan? Probably not even one. Jingwan was incomparably annoyed. These people probably wished that the living king of hell would never wake up. After all, this time, it had nothing to do with them. Even if he died, Luqingdi would not vent his anger on them. Then, she unceremoniously ordered them to leave. Her attitude was strong, and she did not give them any face. Li Hongyuan style, not to say that she displayed 100%, but at least 70 to 80%. Some people were naturally unhappy, but Jingwan did not care at all. To be honest, she was someone who even dared to refute Prince Rui and Prince Kong. At this time, she did not care whether these people were happy or not. Moreover, her identity was also there. These people, there were not many who could make her lower her head. Moreover, the living king of hell's consort, if she lowered her head to others, wouldn't that be losing face for her own husband? Jingwan's attitude was unyielding, so these people could not say anything more. Instead, they comforted her with kind words. After sending these people away, Jingwan directly closed the door and declined the guests. Afterwards, people came one after another to deliver things, but they were very conscious not to pay a visit, including the Luo family. Of course, in order to prevent her grandparents from worrying, Jingwan had actually greeted them. Although her words were not clear, they were naturally clear. These two elders were extremely wise people. She believed that they would certainly understand her meaning, and there was no need to worry that they would drop the ball. After that, it continued for 3 days, and there were people who revealed the imperial list. However, after the people of Jin Qinhuangfu dealt with the people who were initially blinded by the high bounty and didn't know their own worth, no one dared to randomly reveal it. Jingwan could not sit still. If she could wake up, she would not mind waiting for a few more days, but now, she absolutely could not wait any longer. https://11/11807/9473146. Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website, M. Chapter 439. Begin the next step. Let Great Master Liaoqin enter the capital as soon as possible. When Jingwan said this, there was an element of command in her tone. This kind of subtle change, she didn't notice it herself, but the people around her did. However, they didn't say anything. In fact, they had thought that this day would come a long time ago. To invite Great Master Liaoqin into the capital, of course, it couldn't be Jin Qin Wang Fu's people. It had to be Luqingdi. Luqingdi had been in a coma for 5 days because of his beloved son, and there was no sign of him getting better. This was definitely unprecedented irritation. Even the slightest thing could make him explode. It was even more terrifying than the incident in Jiangnan. After all, at that time, some old officials could still say something. This time, even people like Ruan Ruizhong didn't dare to speak. In this kind of situation, if he intentionally or unintentionally heard the words, Great Master Liaoqin, he would definitely invite someone immediately. It was possible that he would personally come. In fact, this was indeed the case. This time, there was no pretense, it was directly the Grand Secretary Ruan Ruizhong who spoke. Luqingdi's face was suddenly enlightened. Why didn't Jin think of it? Why didn't I think of it? Beloved Minister Wan, by Long Temple will have to trouble you. Forget it, come, let Kong Qin Wang, Rui Qin Wang, and Gong Qin Wang come see Jin immediately. If Minister Wan were to go, her sincerity would be enough. However, she was already so old and the weather was so cold. If something were to happen, not only would it delay her son's illness, it would also cause the Grand Secretary to be injured. It was better for young people to go. Sending her 3 sons, who were the last of her sons, would be even more sincere. It would only be slightly worse than her going personally. Speaking of which, although Great Master Liaoqin was an expert, his nature was amiable and approachable. As long as it didn't offend his taboo, he would generally give face. Based on this, Luqingdi wasn't afraid that he wouldn't be able to invite him. Being summoned by Laozi, the 3 naturally came especially quickly, especially Prince Rui. After all, he was stripped of his position in the Ministry of Personnel. Recently, he was very idle and naturally received more ridicule. He was naturally eager to get out of the current situation. In any case, he didn't have anything to do and couldn't make any mistakes. His speed wasn't just for show. After knowing why Luqingdi was looking for them, the 3 princes tried very hard to keep their faces straight so that their expressions would not crack. Sure enough, that bastard was their father's real son, and they were all picked up from the outside, right? What's wrong? Aren't you happy to make a trip to White Dragon Temple? Bastards, that's your younger brother. I'm not dead yet. One by one, Luqingdi scolded the 3 princes to their faces. They were simply unfilial and cold-hearted. What he meant was that he wished he could strangle them to death when they were born so that they wouldn't be such bastards now. The 3 of them didn't say anything. It was just that they didn't restrain their expressions. Yet, they were scolded like this in front of several important officials. What would they think? However, at this moment, they didn't have time to think so much. They hurriedly kowtowed and begged for their father's forgiveness. They absolutely didn't have any bad intentions. 6th brother was ill, and they were also very anxious. They wished they could take his place. If they could do something for 6th brother, they would be willing to sacrifice their lives. Luqingdi sneered. Get lost. The three princes hurriedly left, not daring to delay. None of these bastards are satisfying. The longer they live, the worse they get. Luchingdi complained to his officials helplessly. What could the officials say? The emperor could criticize and scold his own son, but they couldn't say anything bad about them. It wasn't just because of their noble status. In fact, everyone's heart was the same. Their own children could do whatever they wanted, but others couldn't. In this situation, they naturally had to console them. Outside the door, the three princes heard everything clearly. Their faces were like pallets, but they didn't dare say a word. They had to hurry to White Dragon Temple to invite Master Liaochen. They also had to pray that Master Liaochen was there. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to invite him back. They didn't need to prepare any carriages. They spurred their horses to gallop to White Dragon Temple, cutting the time to a quarter. Fortunately, it hadn't snowed in the past few days. If the snow had blocked the road, they would have suffered. Master Liaochen was there. Phew! They heaved a huge sigh of relief. After stating their intentions, they waited for Master Liaochen's reply. Master Liaochen knocked on his wooden fish and twirled his prayer beads, unhurriedly reciting sutras. The faint scent of sandalwood wafted through the air. It should have been a peaceful place to calm their hearts, but the three princes couldn't calm down. Their hearts were restless and impatient. The knocking of the wooden fish was like knocking on their hearts. They were terribly anxious and uncomfortable, but they didn't dare make a sound. After 2 hours, Master Liaochen finally stopped. He met the three princes' expectant gazes. Ba. Since that's the case, this humble monk will accompany the three princes. Many thanks, Master. The three princes were overjoyed. See, this was the difference in treatment. Think about Li Hongyuan's attitude in front of Master Liaochen. Although he was usually respectful, he would still threaten him if he didn't agree with him. Compared to these three, he was an absolute boss. Master Liaochen's age couldn't be verified, but he was definitely over 100 years old. He had a longer history than Qi Yuan. Although he often traveled, he looked very healthy. He didn't dare to return to the capital too quickly. The three princes were subconsciously apprehensive. After learning that Master Liaochen had entered the capital, he went directly to Jin Qin Wangfu. Luchingdi thought for a moment, changed his clothes, and left the palace again. When Luchingdi arrived, Li Hongyuan had been moved from the inner room to the outer room. He was placed on a couch, and everything around him had been moved aside. There was a small table in the middle with an incense burner on it, emitting a special fragrance. Master Liaochen sat on the side with his eyes closed, twirling his prayer beads. Master. Luchingdi walked forward and called out in a low voice. Master Liaochen opened his eyes and put his palms together. Ba. Long live the Emperor. Greetings, Master. Luchingdi hurriedly returned the greeting. After a pause, he asked, Master, why is Zhen's sixth son unconscious? It's already been 5 or 6 days. Zhen is very worried. Don't worry, Your Majesty. His Highness is fine. It's just that his soul has left his body. When his soul returns, he will naturally wake up. This poor monk has already lit incense for His Highness. When the incense burns out, he should wake up. Master Liaochen said. Luchingdi let out a big sigh of relief. So it's like that. It's good that he can wake up, it's good that he can wake up. On the other hand, Jingwan's expression was a little strange. So this senior monk, who was probably one of the best in all the countries, was actually a super swindler. Master, I wonder why Zhen's sixth son's soul left his body for no reason. https:///11/11807/9490667 Mobile Edition. Chapter 440. Not for no reason, but because, from Jingwan's point of view, Master Liaochen paused in a very technical manner. Didn't he see Luqingdi's heart jump into his throat? Master Liaochen, so you're this kind of master. Should I say I misjudged you, or should I say that you're really something else? Alright, to be respected and respected by so many high and mighty people, it should be the latter. Imperial noble consort misses her son very much. This is the only chance she has in more than 20 years, so it's inevitable that she would want to keep His Highness for a chat. Master Liaochen twirled his prayer beads as he spoke in a gentle voice. However, as soon as these words were spoken, the shock it caused was on the level of an earthquake. Luqingdi was completely dumbfounded. He even thought he was hallucinating, but he quickly became abnormally agitated. Forgetting himself, he grabbed Master Liaochen's hand. Master, did you say that hua hua? Master Liaochen's expression didn't change. He didn't pull his hand back. Imperial noble consort's obsession is too deep. She's bound to the mortal world and can't reincarnate. Because she's not immortal, her spirit can exist in the world. Under normal circumstances, she can only wander the world like a ghost. She can't show herself, nor can she affect other people's spirits. Perhaps she's encountered some kind of opportunity that caused His Highness's spirit to leave his body, he explained slowly. Hua Hua has always been here. Always. Luqingdi didn't know whether he was agitated or in disbelief. He spoke incoherently as if he'd lost his spirit again. Only then did Master Liaochen gently pull his hand back. Jingwan saw everything. If she didn't know the cause and effect, if she didn't see her husband take Gongzhou's medicine with her own eyes, and if Master Liaochen hadn't taken her husband's pulse and given a prescription for Gongzhou to make the so-called spirit attraction incense, she would have been fooled. However, she had no idea how shocked Luqingdi was. What was he doing now? Besides, he was just missing his husband and felt a little guilty. Apart from that, he had never reflected on himself. Had he ever thought he was wrong? Jingwan was certain that there was none. Jingwan was more concerned about the reactions of Prince Kong, Prince Rui, and Prince Gong. These people must have thought more because the imperial noble consort would have a greater influence on Luqingdi if she was alive. In their opinion, they would be more biased towards their husband. In this way, even if her husband had no power or influence on the surface, he would become a thorn in their side. At that time, they would not be as tolerant as before. Moreover, Luqingdi was old after all. They might use some extreme means. In fact, Luqingdi was much younger than the old officials in the court. However, his health was worse than theirs. Although it wasn't obvious on the surface, it was obvious that he was rotten inside. The truth was just as Jingwan thought. The three princes already had a strong desire to kill Li Hongyuan in their hearts. The current situation was no longer a small quarrel like before. Even Li Hongming, who knew that Li Hongyuan was the son of a ghost, and now it seemed that he really was the son of a ghost, did not dare to be 100% sure that the throne would not be passed to Li Hongyuan by Emperor Luqingdi. Because his father's current state really made him uneasy. Therefore, these people didn't doubt Master Liaochen's words at all. Therefore, if this man was really a fraud, he would be invincible in the world. However, in Jingwan's opinion, Master Liaochen's medical skills were even better. Luqingdi seemed to come to his senses. Master, let me see Feng Ji. Let me see Feng Ji, Amitba. Your Majesty, this matter is not impossible. However, Imperial Gui Fei Nyang lured Prince Ye's soul out of his body, causing her body to be exhausted greatly. If she is lured out to meet you again, I'm afraid that Imperial Gui Fei Nyang's soul will scatter before you can even speak 2 sentences. Just now, this poor monk has already said that Imperial Gui Fei Nyang Nyang was originally not immortal. If you cause her soul to scatter and scatter, the karma will be too great. It will even affect the fate of Qiyuan Empire. If he was excited because of his whimsical idea just now he was like falling from the clouds into the mud. He couldn't abandon his beloved woman, let alone risk the fate of Qiyuan. However, after knowing that Feng Ji was not immortal, Lu Qingdi firmly believed that such a person couldn't be immortal. However, at this moment, he did feel a little regretful. If she was still alive, would she be able to make Qiyuan more prosperous? Therefore, he was thinking too much. Even if that was the case, no one would protect him after what he had done. Master, is there really no other way? Lu Qingdi's eyes were filled with hope and pleading. He looked a little pitiful. Master Liaochen twirled his Buddhist beads and was silent for a moment. Your Majesty, if you want the imperial noble consort to appear, you have to strengthen her soul. Find 81 treasured places in Qiyuan and set up 81 altars. 81 monks will pray for blessings on each altar for 81 days. At the same time, you have to pray for blessings from thousands of people. The more people there are, the better the effect. When the time comes, you can make the imperial noble consort come out to meet your Majesty. For an emperor, the first part was not difficult. The latter part was difficult. Who could control people's hearts? Moreover, this matter was too big. If things went wrong, there would be complaints everywhere. Lu Qingdi himself might also be blamed by the people. Therefore, Lu Qingdi was silent for a moment. Chapter 441. Li Hongyuan opened his eyes. His vision was hazy for a moment, but they quickly cleared. He was about to sit up when Jingwan reached out to support him. No matter how healthy a person was, they would still feel uncomfortable after a few days. Even Li Hongyuan felt a little dizzy, and this was the result of Jingwan turning him over and massaging him from time to time these few days. Li Hongyuan reached out to rub his temples. Jingwan reached out to relieve his discomfort. Li Hongyuan closed his eyes for a moment, then reached out to take Jingwan's hand. I'm fine now. Only then did he look at the others, then slowly rose to his feet. Greetings, Imperial Father. Greetings, Grand Master. No need for formalities. Yuan, you just woke up and must be feeling unwell. Hurry and sit down, said Lu Qingdi. Amitba. His Majesty is right. Your Highness need not be so courteous. Li Hongyuan was never one to mistreat himself. He naturally wouldn't force himself to be uncomfortable, so he calmly sat back down. Lu Qingdi was clearly trying to restrain himself. His body was trembling uncontrollably. Yuan, your mother. What's wrong with her? Li Hongyuan took the warm water Mama Gong handed him. He took 2 sips to moisten his dry throat. His expression was a little distant, as if he wasn't in the right state of mind. Grand Master Liaochen said that your soul left your body because of your mother. Did you see her? Asked Lu Qingdi anxiously. Li Hongyuan paused. Something like that happened. This son only felt like I had a dream, and then I woke up. As for the contents of the dream. He frowned slightly. I don't remember anything at all. There are many people in this world who, for various reasons, have their souls leave their bodies. However, they basically don't remember what happened after they woke up. Your Highness's condition is perfectly normal, said Grand Master Liaochen. Li Hongyuan's frown deepened. Didn't she die more than 20 years ago? Are there really ghosts in this world? Then according to Grand Master, is she still in the human world and hasn't reincarnated? Was she bound, or was she unwilling to reincarnate? No matter what the reason is, Great Master, please perform a ritual to release her soul so that she can reincarnate as soon as possible. Towards the end, his face became indifferent again. No. Lu Qingdi immediately said sternly. He had been thinking about this for more than 20 years. How could he release the soul of this person just like that? Li Hongyuan looked at Lu Qingdi and said, when people die, they should be buried in peace. Perhaps the purpose is to let them be reincarnated earlier. She has been in the world for more than 20 years. She is just a ghost. Normally, ghosts in the world are either obsessed, full of resentment, or bound by someone maliciously. Father, why don't you perform a ritual for her? His expression was just short of pointing at Lu Qingdi's nose and asking, are you the one who trapped her? Fu Wang, I can knows that you have deep feelings for the Imperial Gui Fei, but she has already passed away. It's fine if you just miss her in your heart. Think about it, when a person can see everything they miss but can't touch it, and the person they miss doesn't even know exists, 1 day or 2 days, 1 year or 2 years, 10 or 20 years, that kind of feeling probably won't be good. Therefore, Father, you should let her reincarnate as soon as possible if you really love her. Lu Qingdi's lips trembled, and his face showed that he was struggling. Gradually, negative emotions took over, and his eyes overflowed with hostility. Absolutely impossible. She is mine in this life, and she will be mine in the next life. Anyway, it has been 20 years. What's wrong with a little more? He thought of something and his expression softened again. Your mother insists on not going because she is waiting for father. We have agreed to be husband and wife in the next life. How can father disappoint her good intentions? Don't you think so? Grandmaster, you will really do what you said. As for the specific requirements, Shen will send someone from the Ministry of Works to see you later. Now that you are awake, Shen is relieved. Have a good rest. Shen will return to the palace first. Lu Qingdi turned and left. You have deceived yourself to this extent. That's enough. You separated her from her childhood sweetheart fiancé, forcefully took her from a noble lady to a nameless orphan. After you got her, you didn't cherish her. You even misunderstood her and killed her. You made her son the son of a ghost. Even if you felt guilty and compensated, you deprived him of the right to inherit the throne. After all these things, how shameless must you be to think that she stayed in the human world after death to wait for you and to continue the fate with you. The more Lu Qingdi was like this, the more disgusted Jingwan was with him. If she was the imperial noble consort, she would probably want to become a ghost. Li Hongyuan didn't care what he thought as long as he achieved his goal. However, if Lu Qingdi continued like this, not to mention the people sincerely praying for blessings, the imperial noble consort would be cursed as a country-destroying witch for so many years after her death. This was naturally the follow-up arrangement made by Li Hongyuan. At this time, the 3 princes who had been silent all this time also said their goodbyes. Lu Qingdi made such a big fuss over a person who had been dead for more than 20 years. They knew they couldn't stop him, so they naturally had to think about how to profit from it. Father Emperor was muddle-headed and didn't think for the people, so they would do it. Father Emperor was stubborn and lowered the prestige of the imperial family, so they would do it. Father Emperor condoned old Six's outrageous acts, so it was time to persuade him. Everyone went back. It was useless to go to the palace to find their mother now, so they naturally went back to their aides and officials who had submitted to them. When Prince Kong returned to the prince's mansion, the first thing he did was viciously throw a tantrum. What did he mean by, be husband and wife in the next life? His wife in this life also had the surname Sun. Even if that woman was the imperial noble consort, she was still just a concubine. So, Prince Kang's focus was really strange. When Li Hongyuan found out that he had slept for 5 days and saw Jingwan's haggard appearance, his heart ached unspeakably. He expressionlessly had Gong Jiu receive 100 lashes and forbade him from taking any medicine afterwards. Jingwan frowned slightly but didn't stop him. Master Liaochen said Buddha with an imperceptible sigh. Jingwan had the kitchen quickly prepare some light food. Even if his physiological functions were lowered, he must have been starving for 5 days. Chapter 442. It couldn't be helped. This matter was too big. Generally speaking, it would do no good. Moreover, in this world, most people were abnormally afraid of ghosts and gods. Not many people would think that ghosts were good, regardless of what kind of person the dead was when they were alive. For the imperial court and the harem, this was not the most important thing. What was more important was that the ghost of the imperial noble consort had been wandering around for more than 20 years. Who knew what she had seen? If Lu Qingdi saw her, he would believe whatever she said according to his attitude towards her. By then, she would tell him some lies. Who knew how many people would suffer? Even if she didn't lie, how many of them had clean hands? Who could guarantee that the ghost hadn't seen them? The fact that the spirit of the imperial noble consort was still alive was known by everyone because of 3 people. It could have been avoided. However, Lu Qingdi's mind was focused on the imperial noble consort at that time. Therefore, too many people didn't want this to happen. They wanted the imperial noble consort to disappear completely. Because of all these reasons, the memorials were about to bury Lu Qingdi's imperial case. Probably everyone thought that the law can't punish the masses. Since there were so many people, the emperor couldn't punish all of them. However, the few officials who truly held great power did not make any moves. The other ones who did not submit any memorials were the princes. The officials could openly oppose this matter, but they could not. If they dared to submit any memorials, they would definitely be scolded like dogs in a second and be despised. Moreover, the ones who would suffer would not only be them, but also their mother. However, for Lu Qingdi, would he give up because of the officials' opposition? Obviously not. At first, he was hesitant. Now, with so many people opposing, he became more persistent and even a little bit demonic. He was the emperor who ruled the world. The more people opposed, the more his prestige would be swept away. How could he not be angry? Lu Qingdi directly issued an edict. At the same time, he severely punished the officials who made the most noise. If Lu Qingdi knew that so many people wanted the imperial noble consort to disappear, would he regret his carelessness? Li Hongyuan naturally knew what was going on outside, but he didn't care at all. He recuperated in the Wang mansion for 3 days. During this period, other than some special matters, everything else was handled by Jingwan. 3 days later, Li Hongyuan entered the palace and paid respects to Emperor Lu Qingdi. He did not mention a word about the imperial noble consort. Then, he went to the imperial harem. From the empress to imperial noble consort Su to imperial noble consort Qin, he did not miss a single one. As for imperial noble consort Wei Xian, who was she? The empress woke up, but she was not in good spirits. She could have recovered after a while, but she went for wool and came home shorn. She had planned to help her son ascend the throne and be the regent empress dowager. But now, she might not be able to live longer than Lu Qingdi. For the empress, there was probably nothing more frustrating than this. Logically speaking, Li Hongyuan should not be able to see the empress, but the empress actually forced herself to see him. The empress did not say anything. She just looked at him with a sizing-up gaze. After a long time, she finally sent Li Hongyuan away. Li Hongyuan knew that the empress was suspicious, but so what? In the Jade Essence Palace, imperial noble consort Su's mental state was also not very good, but she was still very happy to see Li Hongyuan. Imperial noble consort Su did not mention those terrible things. She expressed her concern and her worries a few days ago, but she did not dare to say anything more. Even if she was actually complaining in her heart that Li Hongyuan did not plead for her, she was afraid that she would accidentally trigger a nerve in him. In her current situation, it could be said that she needed this son very much. Imperial noble consort Su still hoped to return to the past, but as a mother, she should understand that it was no longer possible when she carefully treated her son. Faced with Li Hongyuan's coldness, Imperial noble consort Su shed tears again. But this time, Li Hongyuan did not react at all. This caused Imperial noble consort Su's heart to sink to the bottom. Because Li Hongyuan had fainted first and prayed for the Imperial noble consort, such a big matter naturally suppressed the matter of Princess Min Xiang. The bad influence on Prince Rui and Imperial noble consort Su was reduced by a lot. However, Imperial noble consort Su could not be righteous in front of the Imperial noble consort. When it came to wanting the Imperial noble consort to completely disappear, no one dared to be the first. Thus, Imperial noble consort Su's mental pressure did not decrease. Instead, it increased. Li Hongyuan's purpose in entering the palace was actually Imperial noble consort Qin. It would take at least 3 months to build an altar that met the requirements. If things didn't go smoothly, someone would definitely cause trouble. The area involved was too large, and Li Hongyuan couldn't guarantee that every place would be safe. Moreover, it was winter now, and some places weren't suitable for large-scale construction. As such, it was hard to say how long they would have to wait. Therefore, even if the plan went smoothly, they had to do other things. If, by the time the altar was completed, she couldn't hold on until then, that would be too much of a waste. Without saying much, he only gave the special jade pendant to Imperial noble consort Qin. I'll have to trouble your highness Imperial noble consort Qin to wear this with you at all times. This prince will see her in 3 days. It took Imperial noble consort Qin half a beat to understand Li Hongyuan's meaning. She took the jade pendant with a faint smile. It was unknown whether it was because she hid it too well, or because she did not care that the Imperial noble consort had taken over her body. Or, it could be said that she trusted the Imperial noble consort very much. Just as he left the Sweet Dew Palace, Li Hongyuan bumped into Imperial noble consort Wei Xian, who had come to visit Imperial noble consort Qin. His eyes swept past her without any fluctuation. It was like a flower, a tree, or a wall flashing past his eyes. He did not seem to be in a hurry. His footsteps did not slow down. Maintaining the same speed, he directly left. Imperial noble consort Wei Xian looked at his back that was getting smaller and smaller. She gripped her handkerchief tightly. Her expression was indescribable. If it was originally unwillingness and longing, then now it was a strong hatred. Because she was ignored, because she could not get what she wanted. Chapter 443. Speaking of which, it had not been a long time. Therefore, the 81 treasured lands had not been chosen yet, let alone the construction of the altar. During this period, many things had already fermented. Some people wanted to stop this matter, but it did not work in Luqingdi's hands. They wanted to find a way to tarnish the Imperial noble consort's reputation. This was the most effective and vicious method. Based on the current situation, it was still effective. After all, the first thing that came to the people's mind was the corvée. Coupled with some specious remarks, it was naturally more resistant. Therefore, no one supported this matter. Luqingdi was high up in the imperial court. Many courtiers wanted to stop him, so the situation among the people was not hidden from him. The courtiers opposed it, the people opposed it. Luqingdi's mood could be imagined. However, because they were the people, he could not punish them like he did the courtiers. Moreover, there were so many people that some things could not be stopped even if he wanted to. In contrast, Li Hongyuan did not seem to be the least bit strange. It seemed that this matter had nothing to do with him at all. Previously, the jade pendant had been with Qin Shu Fei for 3 days. Li Hongyuan went to see her on time again. He deliberately came a little earlier to see Qin Shu Fei's transformation to the imperial noble consort. Li Hongyuan did not hide anything and directly told her the purpose of his visit. The imperial noble consort was naturally happy to see her son again in the most direct way and talk to him. After Li Hongyuan told her the truth, she was touched by what her son had done for her. Perhaps she could accompany her son in a normal way. However, in the end, she fell into a short silence. Yuan, I am very happy. However, I don't want you to hurt the innocent, especially Sister Qin. You have to know that at the beginning, if she was unwilling, would not have a place to stay. I might have completely disappeared. I am already luckier than many people to be able to exist in this form. People should know how to be content. If they are too greedy, they might lose more in the end. Yuan, I want to see you continue on your path, and I want to see your child born. Because I missed out on your growth, I want to be a part of them. However, I can't deprive others of their hopes and happiness because of this. If I'm destined not to see it, then that's fate. Although it's regretful and unwilling, it's not a reason to hurt the innocent. No matter what, Imperial Mother hopes that your life will be smooth and peaceful. The most important thing is that you will be happy. That is enough. Li Hongyuan, on the other hand, didn't comment on her statement. He only said, Ken understands. Therefore, it was even more important that nothing should go wrong with the matter of the blessing of all people. Li Hongyuan had already anticipated the current situation and already had a way to deal with it. It was just that he wasn't in a hurry now. Some people were creating momentum among the people, which was exactly what Li Hongyuan needed. In the end, the more people involved in this matter, the better. Naturally, he would be happy to have some people help him and save time and effort. In the end, when the situation was reversed, Li Hongyuan also wanted to see the wonderful expressions on their faces. On the 8th day of the Lunar New Year, every household cooked laba congee. The palace also rewarded congee. Of course, one couldn't count on the taste. Moreover, when it reached the hands of each household, it was already cold. After it was heated up, there was no need to talk about the taste. However, any official hoped to have such a reward. It wasn't for the sake of eating it, but for the glory and favor. The laba congee that was sent to Jin Qinhuang Fu didn't even get to taste a mouthful before it was processed by Li Hongyuan. Their own steaming hot congee was fragrant and sticky. If one didn't eat it, who would eat it? The things from Jin Qinhuang Fu were the best. Naturally, there was no exception in this aspect. Jin Qinhuang Fu's chefs were proficient in different cuisines. The congee they cooked also had their own characteristics. The best ingredients and different tastes, but they all had one thing in common, and that was praise. Jingwan tasted a little of each type. It was warm. She had someone send a sufficient amount to the Luo family. It was definitely different from the congee sent from the palace. It was properly kept warm so the taste wouldn't change. After it was sent to the Luo family, the temperature was just right. Luo Darren didn't eat a single mouthful of the congee sent from the palace. However, he drank 2 large bowls of the congee sent from Jin Qinhuang Fu. Of course, it couldn't be just the Luo family. However, Jingwan didn't put in so much effort. It was just that, since the establishment of Li Hongyuan's residence, this was the first time laba congee was sent out. It was somewhat rare. The New Year's Eve was getting closer and closer. Although there were still undercurrents, more people were still preparing for the new year. No matter how poor their family was, they would be more willing to part with money at this time. Not to mention those wealthy families. In short, the tense atmosphere inside and outside the imperial court was diluted. Most of the officials expressed that they could breathe a sigh of relief. However, this sigh of relief didn't last long. In the middle of the 12th lunar month, an urgent report came from the northeast. The alliance of tribes outside the northeast of Qiyuan was invading the south. They invaded the borders of Qiyuan when the snow sealed the mountains. They were aggressive and didn't look like ordinary plundering. Originally, because the letters of credence from various countries arrived at the capital of Qiyuan at the same time on the eve of the emperor's birthday, it aroused the suspicions of many people. There were many guesses and at the same time, defensive preparations were made. However, although there were problems at the emperor's birthday, there were no problems at the borders. It had been more than a month since then. Luqingdi was originally all kinds of irritable. It could be said that from the beginning to the end, there weren't many times when he was happy. Fortunately, there was General He in the northeast border city. He was well prepared and there shouldn't be too much of a problem. Compared to other people, Li Hongyuan wasn't so relaxed. This was because he knew the danger of this battle. Even if he made many preparations in advance, he couldn't be 100% sure that he could turn defeat into victory. https://11/11807/9801623 You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.